Hello everybody, Aaron from Formilla here. Today I'm going to be going over how to get started with a helper bot. I'll go over how to make one, and afterwards I'll go over a bit about the helper bot use. First though, let's go ahead and get started making our first helper bot. Go ahead and mouse over automation on the left, then select and click on helper bots. Now here on the helper bots page, we'll click on the create helper bot button. Now you'll see a Create Helper Bot dialog box. We can name our bot here. I'll go ahead and name this one First Bot. You can also select the default language for the bot's AI engine here. So of course you will want to select the language that most of your website visitors are chatting in. I'll leave this one on English. And then once you're finished, go ahead and click on Save and Add Questions. Here you see that the bot has a default introduction that's already been created. This is the message that the bot will always use to introduce itself when a chat is started. So let's take a look at how to change the default introduction. Just click on the pencil edit icon here. Over on the right hand side, here in this box, is the default introduction message. Now if you make any changes here, once you've made the changes that you like, go ahead and click on Save and Exit. To add a new question for your bot, get started by clicking on Add Question. Now here, you can add any question that you frequently come across on your site. So let's say you are running an e-commerce store. You may have common questions such as how much is shipping, or do you ship internationally, or where is my order? You'll want to pick a question that you know you get frequently and has a standard response. Let's go ahead and use the default example, which is how do I change my billing address. Once you've entered your question, go ahead and click on Save and Add Variations. Now you're on the question variation screen. You'll notice it says up top here to add as many questions as you can, at least 10 to ensure your bot is accurate. This is true. The more questions that you have, the better, but you can add more later. You can even add more from a list of phrases pulled from chat sessions that you have in the future. And we'll look at how to do that later on once the bot is set up. But for now, let's add another question in this field here. Now, to clarify, what you are adding here are variations on the same question. The main question here is, how do I change my billing address? So what I'll be adding here are different ways a visitor might ask essentially the same question. Let's put, I just moved. How do I give you my new address? Then just press enter on your keyboard. You'll see that question added to the list here. Let's go ahead and add one more. Let's add, how do I change where I live? All right, next, of course, you'll need to have an answer for these questions that your bot gives. You can get that entered in this field over here. Let's go ahead and put, you can update your address. By clicking on My Account. Then clicking on Personal. All right, so let's say you wanted the answer to come over multiple chat sends. You can do that by clicking on this link here for Add Message Bubble. So let's say in a second send, we want to put, don't forget to save changes when you are done. Using multiple text bubbles like this, that's a good way to avoid a wall of text in your bot replies. Keep everything nice and separated. Now at the bottom here, there's also a checkbox to not show bot buttons whenever this response is given. So basically there's two buttons that appear after a bot response. We'll see what they look like in just a second here in an upcoming section. Now these buttons are basically two different options that are put before a visitor that's chatting. One says that the response helped, the other is saying that they're going to wait for a live person. Now you would check the button for any response that you do not want these buttons to appear after. So we'll circle back to bot buttons a bit later, but for now we're all finished here. So we'll click on Save and Exit. All right, now here we'll go to the Step 2 Settings tab. In this section, here are the two chat buttons that we were talking about just a little bit ago, down in the bot feedback section. By default, it says that helped and wait for a live person. So these are the two buttons that a visitor will see after each bot response. Now the text on these can be changed. Let's change the first one to nice. As you can see, this changes the text on the button that the visitor will see. Now if they click on the second option here, the one that's wait for a live person by default, the bot responds with a message, and that's in this field down below. So by default, if they click on wait for a live person, they'll see the team will respond to your inquiry as soon as possible. You can ask me anything else while you wait, as I've been trained to answer many common questions. Now this can be customized as well. But if you change this, you may want to include a phrase yourself letting the visitor know that they can continue to ask you questions while they wait, because the bot will continue helping with additional questions if it's asked additional questions. And of course, it's important to know that this is also the phrase that the bot answers with if it has no idea how to respond to a visitor question or a message. So this is the response that the visitor will get if they click on the second button, or if the bot receives a question that it doesn't know the answer to. Now, one other note, the bot will not repeat this phrase if the second button is clicked on multiple times. So let's say that the visitor asks a question that the bot cannot answer and gets this response once. So they get this response one time. Then the visitor asks a new question and they click on the second button. The bot will not endlessly repeat the message in this box. It will only be stated one time, even if the second button is pressed more than once. Now going back up here to the section just above is the bot name and picture section. You can give your bot a name. This is the name that website visitors will see when they're chatting with the bot. And you can click on Choose File to browse for a picture, or if you don't upload a picture of your own, then it will use the default graphic that's seen right here. Now we move down to the chat widgets section. Here you select the widget that you would want the bot to be published on. Now I only have one widget for this video, but if you have multiple widgets, they will all be displayed here to choose from. Also, note that there is not a widget selected by default. Here we only have one widget and the box for it is not checked yet. So you do need to check this box here even if you only have one widget. Now down at the bottom we have the confidence settings section. This is where you set from 1 to 100 the confidence level the bot must have before it returns with an answer. If the bot is below this threshold, it will give the response above for being unsure how to respond. You can definitely adjust the confidence settings here, but for your first bot, I would recommend leaving it at the default 70. And then as you're starting to use and train the bot and you start to see relative confidence scores for incoming messages, then you can go ahead and come back and adjust that up or down as needed. You'll see where to view confidence scores for incoming messages a bit later when we talk about training your bot. You can also set how many times the bot receives an unknown answer before completely deactivating. It's set to 3 by default, but you can set this anywhere from 1 to 10 consecutive unknown answers before it deactivates. All right, now you'll want to scroll back up all the way to the top. You'll notice this message up top that says your bot has pending changes that need to be published. Click on Publish, and you'll see that change to your bot is being published and should finish momentarily. Once publishing is complete, you'll see it switch to a published message with a timestamp. That is it for creation. Your first helper bot is now published, and you are ready to start responding to visitors with your bot. Now we'll talk about training your bot. Making sure that you regularly train your bot is very important because the more you add new questions and the more you compile variations for the questions that you already have, and the more you continuously train your bot, the smarter it will get. In addition to conducting training whenever you are adding a new question, it is a good idea to go to the Train My Bot section at regular intervals. How often you go depends a bit on your own website traffic. Every few days is probably a good starting point. As you chat with website visitors, you'll automatically collect untrained phrases that you can add to existing questions for more and more variations that your bot will recognize. Or you can use untrained phrases to create entirely new questions. Let's go ahead and get to the Train My Bot section to see what we're talking about. To get to the Train My Bot section, mouse over Automation on the left, then click on Helper Bots. Your bot will appear on the list here with the Train My Bot link under the Training column. Click on this link to go to the training screen. In the training section, you'll see a list of untrained messages that have been collected from chat sessions that you have had since your last training session. You'll also see a number given in a percentage. That's right here. This number indicates that the bot found the untrained message should be answered by the suggested question to the specified confidence level. So as you start to get more and more incoming messages, you can look here to get a better feel for whether you might want to move your bot's confidence setting up or down. So let's go ahead and look at some of the untrained messages that have been received in this example. Here a visitor asked, "Do you guys have a phone number I can reach you at?" Another visitor asked, "I purchased a new home. Where do I update that at?" Another visitor submitted, "What's up?" And another visitor just entered testing to try out the widget. You can use the drop-down menu over here under Assign to Question to select how to train your helper bot to handle these messages in the future. There's an ignore response if you do not want the bot to answer this question at all in the future. So for this example where somebody just puts testing, or hopefully not, but maybe you get a heckling phrase you don't want any response to. In that case, you would pick ignore here so the bot does not respond at all to messages like this. Then click on this Save checkmark to train your bot with this response. Now let's look at what's up. There's about 1 million ways a visitor can say hello. Here the bot was not confident at all about the response. You see it's 28% for the confidence level here. So in this case, it would have answered with the intro message and then it would have given the unknown message response as well. Let's assign this one to the hello question so the bot is better trained to just say hello back with the introductory phrase. And so it already was by default. Let's go ahead and click on the Save check mark. For I purchased a new home, where do I update that at? This is another way to ask, how do I change my billing address? The bot was already pretty confident about this. You can see 93% for the confidence level. And since this confidence level was so high, it successfully gave the correct answer. We'll make sure it's more and more accurate with this question by making sure it is assigned to the question, how do I change my billing address? Click on the Save check mark again. Now, for the message, do you guys have a phone number I can reach you at? Firstly, the bot thought the correct answer here was the same as the response for changing the billing address. So definitely this needs a new question made. So here you would select create a new question from this message. After you click on the save check mark here, you'll see a question saved message with a link to go to editing question variations for the new question. We won't click the link, just so I can show you how to get there if you miss clicking on the quick link. Now before we go there, now this list is empty, and that's the periodic goal you should have here. Regularly clear out this section so that your bot is more and more trained for more and more accurate answers. And of course, it is also a very handy place to create new questions without even having to make a note to yourself every time a new question comes up that your bot could be answering. So to get to question variations for your new question, mouse over automation on the left-hand side, and then click on Helper Bots. Then click on the pencil edit icon next to your helper bot. The newly created question is in the list here. So now you can see you guys have a phone number I can reach you at in the question list. Go ahead and click on the pencil edit icon next to this new question. And now you are on the question variation screen. Now you can add more ways a visitor might ask the same question just like you did before. And you can craft the answer to the question over here on the right-hand side. Then you'll click on Save and Exit once you're finished. We'll go ahead and enter a response for this question. All right, now don't forget to click on Publish again once you're finished. The bot does need to be published again every time a change is made. All right, and that's it for the training section. Remember, training your bot often is key for an accurate response from your bot and a more positive visitor experience for visitors interacting with a bot. All right, now we will see what using the bot looks like from the visitor's point of view. Let's say we come in and say hello. As you can see, the bot answers right back with its default introductory message. Great so far. So let's try asking a question about hours. The visitor gets the answer from the helper bot right back and sees two button options here. Let's say the visitor selects That Helped. This button click will show up in chat, and it will also come in as a new chat notification on the agent side, so the agent will be able to see what option they selected. Let's ask another question. Let's try, what payment methods do you take? The bot answers, and let's say the visitor selects Wait for a live person. The bot then responds with its default response for when a visitor clicks on the second button. The bot will continue to answer other questions while the visitor waits. Now let's say the button is clicked on twice. Let's say they ask a follow-up question. Do you take electronic checks? And then they click again on the button response for wait for a live person. Notice that the waiting for a live person message is not repeated. The bot already said the response message for the live person button click once, and it will not repeat the message if the button is clicked again. It also will not repeat this message if a user asks a question it doesn't know. Let's say the visitor asks, what is the weather in France? As you can see, the bot is not going to repeat. The response has been programmed in for the second button click. But let's say the bot had not used this response yet, and it received a question it didn't know. If that happened, then the bot would have responded with the unknown question or second button click response that's right here. All right, now let's say an agent takes over. Once the agent has typed a message, the bot will relinquish control of responding to chats and let the agent take over going forward. So if the agent responds, let's say with hello, how can I help you? And now the visitor asks, what are your hours? And at this point, now the bot is not going to answer because the live person is taken over. Okay, now there are times you may not want the bot to display button options at all. There may be a few reasons. Maybe you wanted to not respond to somebody just testing on your widget, or maybe you didn't want to respond to some gibberish submissions, for example. It also comes in handy though if you wanted to give your bot some fun personality. Let's say you wanted to have some fun Easter eggs. Say the visitor wants to ask, "Helper bot, surely you can't be serious." Here the bot has responded without any chat button options following the response. You can definitely add some personality to your helper bot, and this is one example of when you may want the response to not include those chat button options. Just to reiterate again, on the agent side, a visitor having a conversation with a chatbot does create new alerts for each message that the visitor types, just like any conversation you were used to before. You can use these alerts or monitor here in your dashboard to see any conversation that has selected the Wait for a Live Person button. An agent can, of course, jump in at any time in the conversation if they see this button pressed, as well as if they see the bot giving an answer that does not apply to a question that a visitor is asking. That does it for a few tips on use. Have fun creating and using your helper bot. And of course, if you have any questions or run into any trouble, feel free to reach out to us by starting a chat with us or by emailing support@Formilla.com.